All right, so for this wire wrapped ring, you're gonna have your piece of wire that I have cut for you based on your ring size. And you're gonna have a mandrel here. You're gonna have this mallet. You'll have a couple different pliers, and I'll give you some thin wire as well, and your bead. So we'll have to do some sharing of materials here, but general process, we are going to start, we're gonna leave about like half a thumb's length off to the edge here, and we're gonna pinch right along whatever number of our ring size is. So for me, that's a size 5, and I'm gonna start just like loosely wrapping this around. It really doesn't have to be precise at all. We just want the basic shape of a ring at this point. Then I'm gonna take it off of here, and we're gonna start by making this design here, this inner design. So what we are going to do is with this little part that we left out here, we are going to start off first kind of at the base, and it really like, you want to start kind of where this curve starts flattening out, but it's not a huge deal where you start at all. You just want to make sure you have enough wire to make this wrap. So we're going to start at the base of these round nosed pliers here, and we're just going to take this and bend it around that base there. So you'll kind of create that little loop right there. Then, and you can make this go, really have creative freedom with this. You can make it, bend it all the way down so it touches there. You can leave a little gap. You can do really whatever you're feeling. Then we're gonna kind of come to this part where you want your next curve to be, and we're gonna grab a little bit higher up on the pliers here. You can, again, creative freedom, whatever size you want your loop to be, you can go there, and we're gonna bend this part. Sometimes it's easier to bend with the pliers like this. Sometimes it's easier to bend with your fingers. Do whatever feels best for you. And we're gonna bend like that, kind of creating this loop. Again, however you want it to look, do that. I want mine to bend a little bit more here. I think I want it to come and kind of cross over like that. I'm probably gonna snip off this part at the end, but we'll start off like that, just bending it in whatever way looks good to you. So I'm gonna leave this end part for now, and I'm gonna go back to my mandrel here, line it up roughly on that 5 again. These are super easy to adjust, so if it's not perfectly your ring size, totally fine. You can adjust it when you put it on to whatever size you feel is best. So we want a little bit of overlap here, at least that's what I want with my design. So I'm gonna go to right around this point here. So there's a little bit of overlap. I'm gonna take it back off. That was just to create a little bit more of this circle shape here. So at this overlap, I'm gonna go all the way to the base of my round nose pliers again, and I'm gonna start turning this, but this one I want a little bit wider. So I'm gonna kind of, instead of turning it all the way with my pliers like this, I'm gonna kind of turn a little bit, move my pliers up a little bit, turn a little more, move it up a little bit more, keep turning like that so that it creates more of a gradual turn, because ultimately we want our little bead to fit in there. So it looks like I went a little too far on that turn, which is totally fine. I can adjust it super easily. So I'm gonna pull it in more like this, just going back down on that part and recreating the turn how I want it to look. So now my bead roughly fits in there. I might flatten this part out a little bit just for looks, which I can do either by squeezing with this, or if you really want to make a drastic flattening change to it, you can use these flatter pliers here to flatten some parts out. And really just all this is messing around with the wire until it looks the way you want it to. So I'm gonna try my little bead in there again, roughly And that's looking pretty good to me. I'm gonna start curving it in back towards the base of my ring. So I'm gonna pull this more too, again, going at that kind of gradual angle so that our bead will still fit in there, but kind of pinching these together a little bit more so that they get closer together. And I'm gonna check now that I've done that my bead still fits. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze, so I'm gonna open it back up a little bit. And again, you can make this part of your ring, you can make them as close together or far apart as you want. This one I have them pretty close together. This one I might make them a little further apart. But once you feel pretty good about how this part looks with the bead in there, which I'm liking that looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna put it back on my mandrel, kind of pinch this part with my thumb right around that, my ring size again. I'm gonna pinch that here, and I'm just gonna start loosely shaping that back here to come around this way. And we can do some hammering at the end here to kind of work out any kinks in there if it's not a perfect circle. But we're just gonna get that back to there. And then I'm gonna do the same design here where I kind of just bring this part up and then do a little loop there. So I'm gonna take my round pliers again, and I'm gonna start a little bit away from where the end of this one is, and I'm just gonna start curving it. So that looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna do my little loop here. As you can see, it's a little shorter than this one is, which is just fine with me, but I'm gonna curve that around like this to make my little loop here. And like I said before, I think I want this part trimmed off. So I'm just gonna take a clippers, which I will have up front so you can ask for those. And I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna bend it a little bit out of shape here. I'm just gonna put it up there. And then I'll come in with my clippers and just trim off what I don't need. Sometimes it creates a little bit of a weird end there, which you can use some sandpaper to flatten out if you'd like to. Then I'm just gonna bend that back into place so my design looks the way that I want it to. So then once we have our base of our ring, this is the rough shape that I want it. Again, like I said, everyone's rings are gonna turn out differently. Really just be creative with this part here, make it look however you want to. Just keep bending the wire until it looks the way you want to. You really can't mess it up. So once we are there, I'm gonna do a little bit of shaping here. It doesn't need to be anything super precise yet. And now we're gonna put the bead in. So you're going to take a little bit of this wire. I'll give you a good amount. And I'm gonna start off actually with this knot threaded through my bead. We'll be doing both sides. We're just gonna attach it to here. So I'm gonna make it easier on myself and do it, not have to worry about that bead to start off. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna slip this wire through here and leave a little bit of a tail with it. And I'm just gonna wrap this around. I'm gonna use my flat pliers. I think it gives me a little bit better of a grip. I'm gonna just wrap this around the base of my band here. So I'm gonna keep wrapping. You kind of go under And you can kind of hold the wire with your thumb and then pull with the pliers too. That's what I find works best. Sometimes I like to use my fingers for this part. Sometimes I like the pliers. And I just keep doing this wrapping process until I feel like it is nice and secure around that portion. So I'm probably gonna go like 3 or 4 times around. Just grabbing it and pulling it through each section. That looks pretty good to me. It looks wrapped sufficiently. So then I'm just gonna come in with my pliers here and scooch it close together. It makes it look a little bit nicer if it's just stacked all together there. And with this little end, I'll take my clipping pliers and just clip that end off. And then you can kind of pinch it in either with your fingers or the pliers to make it lay flat. And again, just gonna kind of scrunch that in, make it look a little more together there. Then for this part, now is when I'm gonna want the bead on. So I'm just gonna thread that on the end of my thin wire here. So it's on like that, and we'll see it'll sit in that portion of it. And then I'm gonna start the wrapping process with my fingers this time. I feel like it just gives me a little bit tighter of a hold on that bead. So I'm gonna hold the bead in place there and then start bending the wire like this around with my fingers. And now I'm gonna grab a pliers to pull it through because that's a little bit easier once you get it there. And I'm just gonna do the same thing here where I wrap this wire around just like 3 or 4 times until it feels secure. That's looking pretty good to me. So I'm gonna trim off the end of my thin wire here. And like I said before, we can kind of just bend this in with either our fingers or the pliers, whatever helps you lay it flat. And then we're gonna do that same kind of scrunch here where we just place our pliers over the ends of each one, and we can kind of just gently squish it in like that, and that'll condense all of your thin wire together. So then we have our ring looking like this. You can try it on, see if you like how it's fitting. Mine feels a little bit loose, so the way that we fix that is really just by squeezing like this. So you can kind of get it to a place where it feels more comfortable. It might look a little wonky as you're doing that, but that is just fine. Then we will slide, now that we know we want it to be more like that size, we'll slide it onto the mandrel to be around there. And then any of these parts that are kind of sticking out a little more, I think I want this to bend a little more. Be careful around your beads so that you don't get any snapping there. You can kind of bend the wire with your fingers too, because it's pretty thin. And then this, I want to bend a little more, so I'm just gonna tap with my rawhide hammer to kind of bend this around the mandrel a little more, make it a little bit more circular. And I'm gonna pull mine apart a little bit more too, just because I like the looks of that a little bit better if this is a little more separated. Like this. And now it fits me pretty good. So I see this part's still sticking out a little bit. If you like how that looks, you can totally keep it. I think I want this bent a little more in, so I like how my finger was working on there, but you can also use hammer to kind of tap it onto the mandrel there. Make it a little bit more circular, even just a hand bend like this, to give it some shape. And now that is fitting pretty good and it looks the way that I want it to. So we are done.